Tropical Storm Karen has increased in strength. I'm Mike Naso from IPR with an update on the tropics and hurricane season 2013. As we take a look at the season thus far, it has been about average, and certainly the date to reach our first hurricane has been very late in the season. We are well below normal amount of hurricanes, and we have yet to see anything over a Category 1, no major hurricanes. Quite a change from what we've been used to the last couple of years. You can see our most significant storm was Ingrid, which made landfall as a tropical storm in Mexico. And we now have Karen, which is going to be, it looks like a hurricane perhaps, although it may not make landfall at that intensity. Nonetheless, this is the most serious threat to the United States that we've had so far this hurricane season. And as you look at this map, remember it is entirely possible to have a late season hurricane somewhere down here in the Caribbean. Never rule it out. Now, as we look at the Atlantic Basin right now on the satellite imagery, a couple things pop into your mind. Well, first of all, you see this upper level low, and that is creating obviously strong wind shear in this area, not favorable for development, although there is a good tropical wave here approaching, say, Barbados in the next 2 days. We do have Jerry, which you can't spot on the screen even if you tried. It's actually right about here what's left of Jerry, and it's heading off in this general direction as a tropical depression. And our new storm is Karen, which is right in here, which when you look at that satellite imagery, if I told you the center of circulation were right here, we'd be dealing with a much more significant prospect for intensification. However, the actual center is out in here, and you can see it is rather flat on that side because it's on the edge of a very favorable environment over on the east side and a very dry and unfavorable high shear environment on the west side. We'll discuss Karen and its impacts on the United States because we do have hurricane watches out for portions of the Gulf Coast. Now, here is the latest on Tropical Storm Karen as of 11 a.m. Eastern Time. It was at 22.2 north, 87.9 west. Winds were up a little bit to 65 miles per hour, so it really isn't that far from hurricane strength. Only 9 miles an hour away. It's gusting up towards hurricane force now. It's moving north-northwest at 11, 1,004 millibars. High pressure, considering the strength of the winds. And the forecast track in here is generally thought to continue off towards the north-northwest, then the north, become a hurricane by Friday, and then make that turn off to the northeast. But because of where that turn occurs, it could be anywhere from the Louisiana coast to the Big Bend of Florida. We do have a hurricane watch in effect, and that runs from Grand Isle all the way to Indian Pass, Florida. And that is with the expectation that Karen is forecast to become a hurricane, and it may be a hurricane when it makes landfall. We will have to wait and see on that. Obviously, you can see that there is a difference in the timing as well. It could be Friday night, early Saturday morning if it makes landfall in Louisiana. It could be Sunday afternoon if it makes landfall in Florida. And by the way, the further east that Karen tracks, the more likely it is a stronger storm. If it goes further west, it is more likely to be a weaker storm. And you can see that the models are in pretty good agreement that it's going to move north and then northeast, but they're not in good agreement where landfall will be. And we have models taking it anywhere from Louisiana to Florida, so we're going to watch this very carefully. Current motion out 5 days would take it towards Texas, but of course it will be curving, and where that curve turn occurs is going to be very crucial to the future of Karen. Now you can see the visible as the sun comes up, clearly a tropical storm on our hands, but very lopsided. You can see the spinning in here, the circulation not very well defined. Note these clouds right here streaming towards the northeast. Look at that wind shear. That wind shear is on its heels, and you can see that even better right in here. So Karen's got problems. That's why it's so lopsided now. And all the heavy thunderstorms are off toward the east, and that can create heavy rainfall in the near future when we deal with it as it heads towards, say, the Florida Panhandle, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana. Here you can see it even better on the shear tendencies. You can see there's a very favorable little anticyclone safe harbor sitting right here in the Caribbean, but because of its positioning, you can see Karen is basically getting sheared right now, and the shear only increases further to the northwest. It's not as high if it stays under this little safe harbor area towards the southeast Gulf of Mexico. So it's really not that favorable. It's early October. The Gulf of Mexico is notorious for being full of high wind shear this time of year. The only time we've really seen monster storms is when they were monsters before they got there, although I do recall 11 years ago today, Hurricane Lily made landfall on the Louisiana coastline, and it had been almost a Category 5, and then overnight it dramatically weakened to a Category 1. And that was a memorable event because it looked like we were really in for it for a while. Now, as we move away from Karen, you can see the rest of the Atlantic. There's a pretty good wave here heading towards the islands. It's late October 3rd. You're not going to see much out of that unless it makes its way into the Caribbean Sea and the Western Caribbean in a couple of days. We always have to watch that. Remember Hurricane Iris around this time in 2001 was a sheared wave here in the central Atlantic, and it made it through the islands and hit Belize as a Category 4 hurricane. But if you look closely, this right here, this mess is Tropical Depression Jerry, really was left of Jerry. Winds 35, it's moving northeast now at 11, it's meandered out there for a couple of days. 1010 millibars, only 6 millibars higher than our strong tropical storm in the Gulf of Mexico. And it's expected to move out and remain a depression, head towards the Azores. We're not going to have to deal with Jerry anymore. And in the final analysis, you can really see that we have Karen, and Karen is expected to become a hurricane and then be at or near hurricane strength when it makes landfall somewhere between, say, Grand Isle and Indian Pass, somewhere along the north-central Gulf Coast. And then we have what's left of Jerry out here, which is going to move on out and not be a factor, and then a good little wave going to bring probably some showers and thunderstorms to the islands if it keeps moving in that direction. And you can see Karen impinging on the United States, surely but slowly, slowly but surely, either way you say it, I guess. It's been a long night. The clouds are beginning to show up along the west coast of Florida, and the rain will come, and as this will move up the coastline, we will then see heavy rainfall develop in areas of the mid-Atlantic states perhaps, and that will be a problem. Now, speaking of problems, this is not what Karen looks like. This is a typhoon developing very rapidly in the western Pacific. They've been very active this year, and a tropical depression developing. Both of these systems expected to impact land as typhoons. The big one right here that you can see is our latest typhoon, and that is Typhoon Fitow, and it has winds of 75 miles an hour, and you can see it's forecast to become a Cat 2, go over some of those southern Japanese islands, and head towards China as only a Category 1. But when you look at that satellite imagery, clearly we got a typhoon that's trying to ramp up towards at least 100 miles per hour. I'm Mike Naso from IPR. That's the latest on Karen. We will continue to track it. Be prepared if you live in the hurricane watch area between Grand Isle, Louisiana, and Indian Pass, Florida. We'll keep watching Karen. I'll see you next time.